pause real quick.
So what happens if you click live stream on YouTube?
Well, we have to coordinate the link with something and add it to the settings. And then if we do, I have no idea. I don't know what happens next after you get past that one point. So
okay. Well, definitely. I tried to do it, but it didn't work. I pressed live and record on one of my last episodes, like with Mark, but nothing happened.
Yeah, we got to sync it in the settings with like our specific YouTube live URL, and there's something else too. I forget. For sure.
Well, I think our YouTube had to be up for a month too, or whatever too.
Yeah, that's right. That was one of the qualifications, was we needed to have our YouTube up, and we didn't start it at that point.
Hell yeah, JD, fucking Thor that beer.
It's hot as fuck, and that was very refreshing. All right. What is up, guys? Thanks for joining us today at the Why So Sidious Nerd Podcast. Today is going to be a non-spoiler Deadpool and Wolverine review. So if you have not seen it, this episode is totally fine to listen to. We're not going to get into any of those kinds of details. It's just a general overview of what we thought of the story. We're going to avoid all the spoilers, specific cameos, all that stuff, so don't worry about that. And before we get into that, go ahead and check out some of our most recent stuff. We got the Acolyte finale is out. We got the House of the Dragon. We've been covering every episode out, so up to the latest episode, that's out. We got JLA crossing over with the Avengers comic book review with a couple special guests, Jose and Zane. That's out. We covered the Batman Killing Joke comic. That's out with special guest Mark. Go ahead and follow us. We're cooking in the kitchen. We're at Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, at Why So Sidious Pod, so go ahead and give us a follow for some outside content there. And, of course, we will do a full spoiler review of Deadpool this weekend, and we'll have that out early next week, hopefully Monday, maybe Tuesday. So when you've seen the movie and you want to get further into those details, and I think we're going to have to do some studying and look up, and maybe even some Easter eggs that we missed, as smart as we are. We're going to miss some, but we're going to cover every little thing we possibly can in that spoiler review. Yeah. All right, so this is actually our first non-spoiler review, I think, so we're just going to have to test ourselves and really, keep ourselves on a little leash there. God. Dave, did it meet expectations for you? Big hype coming into this movie.
Yeah, so this was some of the most hype behind a movie we've had come out in a long time. I don't remember the last time there was this much behind something. It probably was Endgame. Because even No Way Home, the cameos weren't confirmed until you went and saw the movie. And then it was like, oh, okay, Toby and Andrew are in this. So the hype with this, Hugh Jackman returning, it was a high bar. So why keep that in mind with a grain of salt. So I don't think it exactly hit my expectations. I think if I would have hoped for a rating, and the rating I came out of, it probably was down 0.4, 0.5. That's pretty specific, but from what I was expecting. So it didn't quite hit the bar, but it was so fun. It's the most fun I've had in a theater in a long time. It was a really good movie still. I would recommend going to see it. I definitely want to rewatch it. I haven't laughed that hard in a theater in a while at some of those scenes, and yeah, I didn't even take notes during this because I was just having a blast watching it. I was just fully into it, whole time, start to finish, enjoying it. So it didn't hit, above a 9 as I was hoping, but still solid.
Love, how about you? To meet expectations?
Yeah, my expectations were through the roof, so it was hard to match. And I don't know why, but throughout the week leading up to seeing the movie, I just got scared and nervous for some reason about this movie.
That might have had something to do with 5 years of mediocrity.
Yeah, I think that was exactly it, because I don't have the faith in the MCU I once did. But I do think the movie delivered. It wasn't Marvel Jesus like they were hyping it up to be, but it was a really good movie. I had a great time at the theaters. It's one of the funniest movies I've seen. There's a great and brutal action like we got in the old Deadpool movies. You think, they're going to maybe hold back in the MCU, but they didn't. The story was a little confusing at parts, but it was still good in the end. I was kind of confused about where it is on the timeline and what's exactly going on, but Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have great on-screen chemistry, and I hope this is a start to a better future for Marvel. I hope this kind of sets things on the right path.
Mm-hmm. That was one of my things. It didn't feel as MCU oriented as I expected. Same. So I guess that's all I'll say for this review here. And that was about it, for me. I think that brought it didn't meet it, by like point one, if we're getting into weird specifics. Point one, point two, it got right up there, and it was such a blast. I think it's the funniest Deadpool movie to date.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the funniest MCU movie now, if this is officially an MCU movie. Because, I was laughing just so hard. And then some of the cameos really worked. Well, let's get into that. At least for all the hype building up to the cameos, obviously we're not going to name anybody, but did the hype of the cameos meet your expectations, Lub?
Yes, I think they did. They did a great job of that. Like, because you don't want to go too far to where it's like all these people we know from the MCU and we've come to love. But it was still, great cameos.
Dave?
Yeah, so I was just bummed because it felt like everything had been spoiled. And obviously you're hoping that's not the case, but you hear so many like confirmed deals with this and that and it and that. And it's just like, okay, what's left? Like we have like confirmed, quoted from a ton of like reliable sources saying all these things are going to be in it. And then we got news the week before it dropped saying that some cameos were planted and were actually put out as news to mislead people, which I was like, okay, I hope so. But anyway, all to say, I was worried about not being surprised coming into the movie, and I was pleasantly surprised with the cameos in this. Like, there was still stuff that surprised me and caught me off guard. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't who I would have guessed, but it worked, and I really enjoyed the scenes too. I even enjoyed it more so than the whole Illuminati deal in the Doctor Strange movie. I enjoyed this aspect of using cameos more, so I thought they killed it with that.
Hey, I did those cameo odds back in the day, and I'll say, one of those ones down at the bottom of the list, you might be there. That was crazy.
Dude. That is so... Oh, man, I audibly kind of screamed at a couple of them. They were very big surprise, especially the way they played into one of those surprises.
Yeah.
It really got you, and it was exciting. Big old cheer throughout the theater.
Right. I do like that a couple of the cameos actually played a part in the story. It wasn't just a cameo for a cameo.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think it's like, in a way, because in another way, I felt like anybody could have been plucked into their shoes. So there's I don't feel like any specific cameos felt like they specifically needed to be there, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But all the cameos together made sense, for whatever reason they were there. Okay, so how about the villain? Did the villain of the movie work for you, Dave?
Yeah, she didn't blow me away. I mean, that's not a spoiler. We all know it was Cassandra Nova.
Right.
She didn't blow me away, but she was solid. I thought they used her pretty well. I liked a lot of the nods to the comics that we just read and covered. There was a few like straight off the page stuff that happened, but yeah, she worked for me. She wasn't in as much as I thought, but
Love.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. She worked for me. She was definitely powerful and badass as fuck, like, and intimidating from the start. So that was cool. But yeah, I liked her.
Yeah, the actor portrayed her very well. She's like maniacal, but at the same time down to earth, and like kind of had some cool little swagger to her. The one thing I did expect more into her background, like how or why is she here, and digging into her deep comic book history. I expected a little more of that, but it's not her movie.
yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was a bit more surface level than I expected. Well, I won't get into it, but we got a lot on the front end, and it didn't go anywhere past the first scene of her introduction, essentially. Yeah, that part was a little lackluster, but it was still solid, though. I enjoyed it. I saw a lot of complaints about it, saying she was wasted. I saw some people saying it was one of the worst Marvel villains, which I don't agree with at all.
I thought she was solid.
But, yeah, I thought it was a solid villain.
And this past year, we've been putting out our MCU rankings, and we've been going 5 at a time, and we've stalled out a little bit waiting for this movie. So soon, I think we're up to our top 10, right?
Yeah.
11. Well, sorry. 10, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because now there's 11 movies. We have to kind of do... Well,
yeah.
Okay, so it'll be like a
We'll
6 and a 5.
Yeah.
I imagine it's... I know it's top 10 for me, for sure. Do you guys think it made it into your top 10s?
Love, you answer first.
I know. I've been
Checks
looking...
out.
I looked at the list earlier this morning, and... I don't know. Because I have Homecoming and Far From Home at 10 and 11. So it's like... It's right there with those movies for me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's above some of the other ones in the top 5. Like those are kind of sacred for now. But I mean, to even be around the top 10 when there's 34 Marvel movies now, right? I mean, that is a good movie, even if it's 12, number 12. You know.
Yeah,
definitely.
Mine's right on the border too. So tune in, find out. I guess to that next episode because I don't know yet. I got to think about it more, but it's in the ballpark, so it could be.
Yep, which is really all you can ask for. Were your theaters going crazy? Were people cheering and laughing really loud?
There was the lady like. The lady like four
to the right of us,
down to the right of us,
was kicking her feet up.
She kept doing like dolphin kicks and shit when people with cameos or anything would show up. I was like, "What is she doing?"
It was like little kicks of joy. Like something cool would happen. I'd look at Lub and then I'd just see feet flopping in the back behind him. Like, what the hell? No, it was pretty reactive, and it was the busiest I've seen that theater in over a decade, like high school days. It was packed, so it was fun. I think there was a lot of laughing. Again, there were a couple scenes where I laughed longer. Like the majority of the laugh died off, and I was still like cackling. I was like, "Oh, I'm that guy." But like there was a couple times I busted out, and I was the only one. But for the most part, everybody was pretty interactive. The thing you can tell is when you leave a theater, and when we all left, everybody was talking, walking out of the theater, and that's when you know it was a good movie.
For sure.
You?
Okay.
How was your theater?
Oh yeah, very loud. A lot of cheers, a lot of laughter. It was completely full. The busiest I've seen that movie theater in a very long time.
Well, and Comic-Con's in town too, so things are kind of
a
little more busy.
For sure. Yeah, a ton of people are here for nerd stuff, so I bet you they came to see that. Okay, and then let's actually get into what did you think about the humor, especially we heard coming into this that it would be very meta. We heard they'd be poking jokes at Marvel's mediocrity.
Oh my gosh.
Do you think in that aspect it landed?
I'm surprised they let Deadpool go that hard. Like there were sometimes where I just kept looking over like, did he really just say that right now? So you always get Deadpool breaking the fourth wall, but when he's in the MCU it takes it to another level.
There were some shots fired.
Like mentioning Feige, I'll say that. You know what I mean? Like he says Feige.
Yeah, multiple times. But even just like the specific shots about certain things, it was like, I can't believe they actually... Which they kind of have to. That's the joke. If they don't, it's a good look for them if they let him take these shots, Like, rip the MCU, and then we'll be on the way back up. The humor, I think he fired more jokes off than the other two movies. Batting percentage-wise, I don't know if it was the highest, but I still laughed the most because there were so many. And that's part of Wade Wilson, but he was firing stuff off constantly throughout the entire movie. Like, they took a lot of shots at jokes, but it still worked for me. It was hilarious.
So you're not sure it's the funniest Deadpool movie?
I think overall laughs, yes. Batting percentage per joke, I don't know. It's close for with Deadpool, but I'd have to rewatch them. I haven't watched them in a while. But
what about you, Leb?
I think it is. I think it's the most I do need to watch the first. I just watched the second one the day before I watched this, and it's funny, but it's definitely not as funny as the third one. So I think one is the closer one.
Yeah. Okay, so did Wolverine work for you guys?
Yes. My goodness, yes. We got so many awesome scenes from this movie alone that would make it into the top 10 scenes of Wolverine of all time. Like, there were, again, stuff, I'm not going to mention anything outside of the trailer, but we see them fighting in a car at one point. That scene was amazing with Wolverine. Like, that scene was awesome. That might have been one of my favorite sequences because it was so creative, and everything Wolverine was doing was like, oh, this dude will tear you in half. Like the way he was jumping and lunging, it was like, it just felt like a superhuman absolute ball of rage in it.
Yeah, Wolverine worked for me, and he was actually way funnier than I thought he would be. He had some of the funniest lines, just being that super dickhead, just not taking any shit. He said some of the funniest stuff.
I will say one aspect of it was disappointing. Some of his backstory stuff, that's all I'll say. I thought that was a bit lacking. But overall, it was awesome to see him back.
Agreed. Yeah, I want to get into that, but yeah, I agree with that. One more thing. Let's, non-spoiler. How's the end credit for you guys?
I was slightly disappointed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny, that's for sure.
Very funny, but
I was hoping to get something
important.
More.
Yeah.
I don't even remember it. I just remember well, I actually don't even want to say what else, but there's a couple surprises in the credits. I won't mention it. We can talk about that in the
was
full.
cool.
But
The
I
first
like
part
that.
was cool.
I don't remember what the actual post-credit scene was, so it obviously wasn't that great. But that's all I'll say. I don't know.
Yeah, though not even the post credits, but the credits themselves, pretty emotional, and I loved it. It was a great little homage to the Fox universe. Got me a little emotional. Yeah, just like saying goodbye to a whole universe, the universe that was the first to bring comic books to the big screen. You know, totally the first wave of those movies. You know, you get to pay a little homage to those movies with a nice little song there.
Yeah. No, it was nice. By the way, are we about to wrap it up? I was just going to throw out the tiniest of things, but...
Yeah, let's just go with our closing thoughts. Nice little quick non-spoiler review there.
So yeah, like I said in the beginning, it was solid. I'm going to rewatch it. There were issues we didn't talk about here, and we can get more into it, but I did think CGI was lacking at points. Again, it was weird. There were some scenes that looked incredible, and then some scenes it was like, that looked wonky. That looked pretty wonky. But again, it wasn't enough to be like, this is Quantumania or anything like that. But there were just some issues. And the plot as a whole felt pretty weak. I don't think it exactly reset the MCU how we thought it would. I think the plot was a little shallow. But yeah, again, it was still a solid movie. I can't wait to watch it again. And it might, I've got it in the low 8s coming straight out of the theater as a rating, but the more I was telling you guys, the more I was thinking about it all day today, it was going up a little bit more and a little bit more in my head. So I'm looking forward to the rewatch and deep diving in it.
Yeah. Love, any other thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think we said it pretty well. I did enjoy this movie, but no, it's not. The hype was just so big coming into this, where it's going to be people like us created the hype too, where it's like this movie make or breaks Marvel.
Yeah.
If this sucks, we're out. We're never watching it again. So, but no, it didn't suck, and I will definitely be tuning into the next Marvel project.
Yeah, I think what I expected with like a clear vision of the MCU moving forward, there was lackluster there, but it was replaced by it was a funnier movie than I expected. And I did expect funny. I was laughing a lot harder and a lot more often than I expected. The action, I think they really stepped it up. The gore, it was very gory.
Bro.
Some of those shots, a lot of genital shots in various forms. Just very violent and very satisfying in that way. I want to get into it more in the other one, but I expected certain cameos. I really was confident in some certain cameos that didn't happen, but replaced with big surprises that I didn't expect, and that's always awesome. All right, well, that's it for here. We're gonna get our spoiler review out there too, and that'll be a nice big long breakdown and get into every little detail that we couldn't talk about here. And, thank you for joining us. Again, we're a Why So Sidious Pod, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We got shirts available. Just got to figure a way to get that link available to you guys. And we'll see you next time.